I am Jim Edmonson. This is Port Aransas, a collection of memories. Mrs. Vera Fortson is with us this evening to talk about the tank farms on Harbor Island in the Port Aransas Independent School District. Mrs. Fortson was born in 1910 in Fairfield, Texas. She moved to Harbor Island in May of 1941 with her husband, Noble N. Fortson. At that time, he was employed by the Humble Oil and Refining Company and working on Harbor Island. Mrs. Fortson became associated in 1959 with the Port Aransas Independent School District. At that time, she worked at the Henry Olson Elementary School. That was 1950-51. In June of 1975, Ms. Vera Fortson retired after attaining the position of Principal and Superintendent of the Port Aransas Independent School District. To this day, the library at the H.G. Olson Elementary School is named in her honor. Welcome, Ms. Fortson. Ms. Fortson, we want to talk first this evening, if we can, about Harbor Island. And if I remember when we talked a little earlier about coming to Harbor Island, I would like for the audience to know what it was like just getting to Harbor Island in 1941.
Well, as we drove from Whitsett, Texas to Harbor Island, when we arrived at Harbor Island, I thought we had arrived at the end of the world. It was, they had a terrific rain. Water was standing. All the houses were built on stilts. All the humble houses were up high and on stilts. And water was standing about, I guess, 3 to 4 feet all over the tank farm. The men out on the tank farm working were wearing nets, screeners over the faces because the mosquitoes were so bad. I've never seen such giant mosquitoes. I've seen a few since, and they've some of the hurricanes. But I thought they was the biggest mosquitoes I'd ever seen in my life. And I thought we'd come to the end of the world and chuck it off place.
Okay, and
it was raining when we arrived there. It wasn't too happy and not a very beautiful sight.
As a matter of fact, you probably traveled on this bridge here, didn't you?
We certainly did.
Okay, if we could, I'd like to show these this time. This is the causeway that was built from Aransas Pass to Harbor Island. And Gilbert, you get a good shot.
And as you drove over this causeway, those birds sounded as if they were going to hit you in the face, fly and hit you in the face.
They made a
cracking and popping noise. And you'd think, well, I'd
want to... And it was one way.
One way. And if you met a car, you had to find a place and pull over to the side.
Okay, I'll show you on this next photograph that I have. It does show the pull-out area that they had right here. This coming in right here was the pull-out area. And everything else was one way. Now, originally, the causeway was not this way. I'm going to go backwards now, Ms. Fortson, and this will be for the benefit of the people looking at the tape. Originally, this was just a railway, and it was built originally to build the North Jetty, the one that is over at the end of St. Joe. And it looked similar to this, and this picture now is quite old. We're talking now about 1910, and this was mostly just 2 rails on runners. Holding it all right, Gilbert?
Yes.
That's good. Okay. After they built the railway, I'll bring it right back up to 41 again if I can, Ms. Fortson. After they built the railway to get the jetties, because they had to haul the rock down there and build the jetties, then they saw the potential of maybe, they already had a railroad, well then maybe they could link Aransas Pass to the channel, or to the pass, to the pass. And so they decided, and some very industrious men decided to dredge the channel from Aransas Pass down to Harbor Island. And in doing this, they built up the spoils, and a lot of it went on to Harbor Island itself to try and raise the elevation, because originally it was called Low Island.
That's right.
And they built up the spoils, and then from that spoils, we got the 2 causeways that they're talking about here. Okay, you got to Harbor Island. It's the jumping off place. It's 1941. Okay. Humble had the camp there then, and it was had the potential at that time of becoming a very important petroleum exporting port on
Yes.
the coast of America.
It was one of the busiest places. They said, I think they shipped out more oil, the Standard Oil Company, Humble and Standard, during the war than any other place on the Gulf Coast during the war. In fact, we have seen many tankers line up, 8 and 10, and maybe as high as 10 and 11 tankers, one right behind the other, waiting to be docked at the Humble docks, to be filled with fuel to be transported up the East Coast during the war.
And at this time, how many homes, or about how many people lived on
There
Humble
were
Island?
about 5 to 6, maybe 8 families at one time, 5 at the most, lived there. The Olive family, the Kale family, there's Carter family lived there, the Capps family, Tommy Matheson family lived there a while.
Okay, Miss Fortson?
The Fortson family.
The number of people then was never great because the type of work of loading oil did not require a great deal of people.
Quite a few of the men, some of the men that worked there came from Ingleside and the Ranges Pass too.
They came on the
And some
causeway every
lived
day.
over at Port Aransas, like Alan Sims, an old timer with the island, worked over there. Woodrow Owsley was one that worked over there.
They drove the causeway or rode the ferry?
They rode the ferries and rode that rough old transportation causeway bus thing that we had. We had to buy tickets and get passes.
Now, this was a bus?
Well, it was a,
Or
yes.
was it it
Bus.
wasn't that train car, was it?
No, it wasn't a train car, it was
The train
bus.
car was before that.
Transportation.
There was a train car, and I need to put that in here. There was a train car that was back when it was just a railroad.
Yes.
And the train car was pulled not by a train, but by a Model T, a converted Model T, and it
That's right.
carried 6 automobiles at a time. And of course, that just matched the ferry. The ferry only carried 6. And then at that time also there was an added problem. If the train car wasn't running at that time, then the ferry had to go all the way to Randy's Pass. It was a 2-hour trip, I think it was. Okay, Miss Fortson, were concrete ships being built before or after you lived there at
I
Harbor
believe
Island?
it was after I moved there.
I think
I
it
believe
must
it was
have been.
after. I'm not sure. I'm not definite about that, but I believe it was after.
Harbor Island bound to have gone through some changes.
Quite a few, and I believe it was after I moved there that they began to build the concrete.
Wasn't it kind of different living on Harbor Island during the war?
Harbor Island was very different during the war. I'd come in from Aransas Pass on this little causeway bus thing. We got tickets, and I'd land, get home about 5 in the afternoon, and we had guards to let you in. We had to have passes. They'd let us through the gate to go home. We got home. You had to eat early, have all lights out. We had blackouts. And one night I thought, couldn't read, you couldn't do any handwork at night, and I thought, well, I'll turn on my little Philco radio, one that I've had for years. And it sure won't. Had to sit above the window. And the man on night watch came by and he saw this little light. He knocked on the door and he said, get that light out.
There were supposed to be rumors at the time that there were German
But
submarines.
we've been told.
Of course, y'all were sitting right
We
in
sit in a target area.
Yeah,
In
by
fact,
the fuel
it was
supply.
my father and mother came to visit me, and my father said, I hope that we live to get off this island before somebody bombs this place. Y'all in a very dangerous position during the war, and it was dangerous. They couldn't, it was a dangerous place. People didn't realize it.
After the war, did the Harbor Island go through any changes after?
Oh, yeah, quite a bit. People didn't realize what important people came to Harbor Island. Harbor Island not only kept a few houses there for some of the important men to work there, they had this big recreation hall and dining area and a nice, one of the excellent kitchens, one of the best kitchens in South Texas, one of the finest cooks there. And they entertained. They had their own private boats, and they entertained the VIPs of Standard Oil Company and Exxon that would come here on vacations. would fly down and come in here and entertain them and take them out in their private boats fishing. Now, there's been just everybody from Roosevelt on down is, I'm sure, visited Harbor Island. We just
And it just entered my mind that for the benefit of anyone watching this tape that's not familiar, because there's not a sign up there, I don't think, that says Harbor Island, but for the benefit of those who don't know where Harbor Island is, Harbor Island is right there at the ferry landing on the mainland.
just like my little niece Jill said a while ago, AV, no, I believe it was Ethan said, where is Harbor Island?
Now,
see, not many people know where Harbor Island is.
Now, does Humble or Exxon still have facilities over there, or is it all Atlantic?
Well, I can't say about that. I think.
Okay, American Petrofina is big over there now.
Well, I'm sure now John may be able to answer that. See, I've been gone from here 4 years, and I don't know just what's happened since I've left here. Exxon was still operating over there when I left, but now Gilbert and Mr. Fortson might be able to.
Two of the most productive oil areas in this entire state gather and end up right at Harbor Island. One is the Refugio oil field, and the second one, and that's the one that just astounded me, that's when American Petrofina bought it, is the Midland oil field.
Yeah.
They have a 500 and something 10-inch pipeline going all the way out there, and it gathers from out there, and it winds up right there on Harbor Island. Okay, Ms. Fortson, how did you get taught in teaching school in Fort Range?
Well, before we unpack
Because
that,
I'm sure
by the
someone
time
had
you know, the war came on, and a lot of the younger men had gone into service, and I think teachers must have been hard to come by at this time. They needed teachers. Every place I went, they needed teachers. And one day, a car drove up, and a big, red-faced man came, and I thought a pistol-packing man with button on, and knocked on my door, and it was Mr. H.G. Olson, Henry Olson. And people...
I think at one time Mr. H.G. Olson has served every capacity on this island.
And he came and he said, well, knocked on my door and introduced himself, said, I'm Henry Olson, and I'm president of the school board at Port Aransas, and he's chief of police, and I don't want to, how many other titles he had, but he said, I came over here, I hear you're a school teacher, and we'd like for you to come, we need teachers, come over for an interview. And I went over for an interview and signed up to teach. Didn't take long to sign up to teach school. And that year, my son started school. I had a boy that was in the first grade, and I didn't want to teach him. I said, you have a child, you're with them 24 hours a day. I said, he said, we want you to take first grade. And I said, no. If you have 2 first grades, I'll take one of them, but I don't want to teach my own child. And they thought that was strange. And I said, I refuse to teach my own child. I'd rather somebody else would have him. I'm with him. And so they gave me, then you had to teach more than 1 grade. They gave me 3rd and 4th. I had 3rd and 4th grade. And I taught Bobby Nelson, who used to have the grocery store.
And also served on the school board
Served
later.
on the school board later. Very excellent. He was excellent trustee. Bobby made an excellent trustee. Woodrow Owsley, Jr. Just a lot of them. Taught a lot of them.
About how many students were in school
Well,
here in
in average, I think when I first started out is from 89, from 80s to 100, and then it went up to 115 and 20. Not a large enrollment, not too many.
And slowly increased.
It just gradually increased.
Because it's up around now, I imagine around 2 something.
I don't know what it is now, I don't know, but it never was, you know, it didn't fluctuate that much, 100 to 120 and 25.
What years then, in the school district, Ms. Fortson, what years did they begin to add other schools? Did they have the junior high school when you...
Well, yes, while I was here, in 1966, we built on the library and the junior high school. And they added to the gym, and they completed the library, the old library, one that's named for me. That was then. It took me 4 years to sell the school board that we needed a library. I said, now look, your boys and girls are good fishermen. They all like to fish and they can swim like ducks, but a lot of them sure can't read, and they need to learn to read. They didn't think it's important, that they need to learn they could swim and fish, and that was enough. And I had a hard time, it took me 4 years to convince them that we needed a library for that school.
They built the library.
They built the library in '66 and then built the junior high.
And you were in charge. When did you make a transition or become the head teacher or the principal or the superintendent?
That was in, well, I tell you, I was working on my master's degree. Had no intentions. I always said I'd never be an administrator. And one night I was driving to UCC working on my master's. And I'd been to class, and when I got back home, there was 2 cars in my driveway. I couldn't even park my own driveway. And this is after we had purchased this humble house with Harbor Island and transferred it by barge over to Port Aransas and bought us 2 lots.
You moved your house?
We moved to Harbor Island. It's still over there.
That's the first one of those.
Well, this is a good story. It's quite interesting. We got pictures of moving that thing and got it out, got the house ready, got us a house mover. We had to bought the house real cheap, just dirt cheap.
It was a camp house.
It was an humble house. It was 22 years old when we bought it. Made out of good lumber, put together, many coats of humble paint on that thing. We bought that house less than $600. It's 2 bedrooms, a living room, and a porch. What would you normally call a 5-bedroom house? I'm still living in it now. I mean, I still have it. I've remodeled it, but I still have it at home. Okay,
5-bedroom house down and now, I'd call it about $500,000.
All right, well, let me tell you the story about this. We moved that thing on this barge. The barge is what cost us, the mover cost us. And we got it out there in the bay, and when he got out there, he got to rocking with all the furniture in it. He said he could move it.
With the furniture?
I had just purchased a new piano, and that was the only thing I could see is that piano going over in that bay and all my furniture going on. But we watched it from the other side. But they finally landed that barge and got that thing put up. And it's over there on 416 Lantana Drive in Port Aransas. It's an old gray house. I have it leased out now by the year, lease it for the year. And I've added to it and built onto it. And I'm going to tell you, I don't know whether this is being taped or not, but I leased that thing for $500 a month. And
a 5-bedroom?
A 4-bedroom house. A 4-bedroom house, 2 baths.
All right. Ms. Fortson, now, you lived in the house, you worked for the schools until 1978.
All right, now, in 1957 and 58 is when I went to school and got back. When I got in, and those people were there at my place, it was Henry Olson and Al Mall. You know, A.A. Mall? A.A. Mall was president of the school board, and Mr. Henry was trying to get out, and they were there waiting. And I said, Mr. Fortson said, you better come on in here. You got 2 men in here wanting to see you. And I walked in, and they said, we came to talk to you. And I said, came to talk to me? And they said, yes, that we just came from a school board meeting, and Mr. Larry Stewart has resigned. And we came up here, we want you to be our next principal or superintendent. I said, you must be crazy or lose your mind. I am not qualified, number 1, and number 2, I don't want the place. They said, well, can't you go back to school and get qualified? And I said, well, Dad, I think I could, but I don't want to. And they said, you go to school, what would it take? And I said, well, I don't want to. I could talk to my advisors. And I checked, and I said, I'll check. And then they said, well, blah, blah, we'll pay you thus and so. The first time in my life, I let that dollar bill hit my eye when they told me what they paid me. It would look so much larger in that little monthly salary I've been making teaching 1st grade that I accepted with approval of my advisor. And I went on to A&I Kingsford and took special supervision courses with all these old gray-headed men, Mr. Andrews and all of them around here joining us, and got my degree in supervision and administration. And I'm one of the few women in the state of Texas that has superintendents qualified to be a woman superintendent. In high school, principal and superintendent.
That's right,
there are very few. And I started that in 57 and 58, and I served that until I retired, which was 18 years.
18 years in that position, and a total of about 25 years altogether.
Altogether.
Now, Ms. Fortson, I think is a fitting way to end this, because we started out by saying you came here from Whitsett, Texas, and you landed almost in Harbor Island, and you thought it was a jumping off place. After being here 25, 30 years now, what are your feelings about Port Aransas?
In the meantime, I learned to love and adore and adjust. Back to when they told me that, I said, I am not qualified to be your superintendent. They said, oh, yes, you are. And I said, well, why? Why do you think I am? They said, you have the qualities that we like in a person. Number one, you're friendly and know how to get along with people.
That's big.
You know how to get along with people and how to deal with people. And this we haven't had in our former principals and superintendents. And I guess that's the way I got the position in that qualification. I have always tried to be honest and always have a good sense of values and want to do the best. And when I go set my goals to do something, I'm going to do my very best. And I go all out. I really want to do a terrific job. When I start something, I do it. And I fell in love with Port Aransas and loved it. I lived here. And I still have 2 lots up there. I still own my home. And I'm back down here on a visit. I have some property in English there, and I'm fixing to sell that. If I do, I may build me another house up there to duplex to rent part of it and live so I'll have a home, and I won't have to live with John Thompson when I come down here.
Okay. Thank you very much, Ms. Fortson. On behalf of the Port Aransas Library, I'd like to thank Mrs. Vera Fortson for sharing her memories of Port Aransas.
It's a lovely place.